Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, we're talking quarterbacks. And to me, there is no one greater to talk quarterbacks with than the man that I am talking with tonight. That would be NFL Hall of Famer Warren Moon. How you doing, Warren?
I'm great, Mike. How you doing this off season?
Doing great, doing great. Enjoying all these storylines and all these different things that are popping up everywhere. Well, speaking of storylines, of course, the number one storyline is Cam Ward in Nashville, at least, is the number one storyline. Of course, his career is beginning here in Nashville, where you surprised him by showing up to his opening press conference. I mean, I got to ask, what were the feelings kind of going through you when you decided to kind of surprise Cam in his opening press conference?
Well, I just made sure we could pull it off. That was the big thing. If ever you're going to try and surprise somebody, you want to make sure you're able to make it happen. And I wasn't sure how the Titans were going to hide me in the building prior to him being there, because he was moving around the building a lot, doing different things before the press conference. And they had me moving around doing some things as well beforehand. So it worked out to where, I could bring the jersey out and present it to him. And I think he was as surprised as anybody in the room, which is what we wanted. And it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. The mood of the room was definitely, it definitely changed. I would say it changed and got even more, I would say, more energy in the room and more synergy in the room as well. I mean, did you feel some of that synergy when you came into the room?
I was so focused on making sure I did what I was supposed to do. I kept asking, because I'm a big detail person. It's part of me being a quarterback. It's part of my personality. And I want to know exactly where I was supposed to walk, exactly what I was supposed to do with the jersey, all those different things. So I just wanted to make sure my part was done right, because that's a big moment in his life. And I didn't want to, first of all, try and overshadow him in any way. And I just wanted to make it a part of what was going on that afternoon, because, he was the focal point. He's the number one overall pick. He's the one being introduced to the team. And I wanted to make sure I didn't take away from that. I just wanted to be able to add to that.
Gotcha. Well, you definitely added to the moment and made it even more special for sure. Now, in Nashville, they haven't technically named Cam Ward the quarterback. There is a competition. Last offseason, Brian Callahan named Will Levis the starter. This offseason, I know he talked about somewhat learning from last offseason and not quite naming the starter just yet. And there's a competition essentially for the quarterback position between Cam Ward and Will Levis. What do you think of the Titans having a competition for the position instead of just going and potentially just going ahead and naming Cam Ward the starting quarterback?
Well, I like the fact that they're making them compete, because Will was the starting quarterback last year, and I guess until he's beaten out, he should still have that job. I've never been a person that says somebody should be given a job over somebody else, especially if they get injured or something like that. If they come back from that injury, they should get their job back. But I think it's good for both of these young quarterbacks to compete against each other. I think it'll bring out the best in both of them. But I also think in the back of the Titans' minds, they feel like Cam Ward is going to win this competition. But I think they're just going to make it a fair, competition, and nothing can be said once it's over, if he does what he's supposed to do as far as winning that competition.
Gotcha. Okay, now we're going to assume that Cam Ward is the starter here. What things are you kind of expecting of him in his rookie season if he is indeed named the starter?
Well, that's hard to say. You have to see exactly what's around him and how they respond. Quarterback being one of the most important positions that there is in team sports, there's no question as how important it is to having a good team, but it's also a very dependent position. And in order for you to do well, you have to depend on other people doing their jobs for you, as far as the offensive line, getting protection, as far as having a running game that takes some of the pressure off of you so you don't have to throw the ball every down. and then a good defense. Being able to get you the football back, getting turnovers, getting you good field position. So all those things go along with helping, especially a young quarterback, to do well. So if the rest of the team is up to the task of doing those types of things on a consistent basis, I think it allows Cam a little bit more time to get his feet wet, to get more comfortable with their offense, to get more comfortable with the players around him, and he'll just continually get better each and every week. Now, if they're giving up a whole bunch of points on defense and they're fumbling the football and he's not being protected, it's going to be a tough, long year for him. So a lot of that depends on how the rest of the team comes together, and that's what I'm anxious to see in the preseason.
Okay, well, we do have a comment in the Touring the AFC South inbox from Corey Jackson Sr. He said the GOAT is in the house. He's talking about you, Warren.
Very smart young man, Corey.
Yeah, he definitely is a smart brother for sure. Now, of course, you mentioned quarterback being one of the most important positions. And no one knows that more than the Indianapolis Colts right now, because Anthony Richardson is definitely, under siege a little bit there. Being under siege meaning that they brought in another quarterback to compete with him in Daniel Jones. So, when they brought him in and when you heard the news of Daniel Jones being brought in, what did you think of that signing to bring him in to compete with Anthony Richardson?
Well, again, I think competition is good. I don't think Anthony has really done anything to say that job is his. He's been kind of up and down since he's been in the league. He's been hurt some, but he has shown signs of what they felt like he could be when they drafted him as high as they did. But he's also shown a lot of signs that he's really not ready to play on a consistent basis. So I think by bringing in Daniel Jones, a guy who started in this league, it gives him somebody not only that he can't learn from, because Daniel has been in the league and he's a very smart quarterback and he's very gifted, but he hasn't done it either. That's why he finds himself on the move. So I think they're both kind of in the same situation, and I'm sure they're hoping again Anthony Richardson wins that battle, but it gives him something to compete against as opposed to just giving him a job where he hasn't really earned it as far as what he's done on the field so far in his first 2 years.
Okay. All right. So, one thing I did notice, and I looked around and saw a few comments, and these comments it was a comment from veteran defensive lineman DeForest Buckner. He's been with the Colts for a while now. He was talking to ESPN.com, Stephen Holder, I'm sorry. And when talking about Richardson, he said, I can tell just from watching him the last couple of weeks, he's dialed in. So he said that just when watching him and things like that. What is it does it kind of bode well for him that it seems like players like Buckner are behind him in his pursuit of maintaining the starting position?
Well, I think it shows that Buckner sees that he's really focused, and maybe the competition is going to bring out the best in him. And I think that's one of the things probably that the Colts wanted to happen. They wanted this competition to maybe light a fuse under Anthony to say, this isn't your job. You need to go out there and get it. And I think he's doing all the necessary things in order to make that happen. So, again, competition is not bad for young quarterbacks. Once you get established, the job should be yours. But I don't think he's done anything to show that this job should be his solely. And I think that's why they brought in somebody. You remember last year they played Joe Flacco a lot, and Anthony was in and out of the lineup, whether it was from not playing well or whether it was from injuries, all those different things. So I think him seeing Daniel Jones coming in, a guy who started a lot of games in this league, even though he hasn't had a ton of success, it probably just showing him that I need to step up my game. And if I want to be the starting quarterback here, because this guy has started somewhere else and he has been to the playoffs with a team, he has won a playoff game. So I better step up my play, because he's a young guy as well. And if I want to start on this football team, I better do all the things that it takes to be a starter here.
Right. So I would say, I want to ask, of course, like we mentioned, Daniel Jones is the competition for Anthony Richardson. So, in your opinion, what would it take for Daniel Jones to win that competition over Richardson again, who was the fourth overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft?
I think Anthony would have to really play pretty bad in the preseason, and Daniel would have to play really good in the preseason. I think that's what it would take. I think they want Anthony Richardson to be the starter. The thing I like about Daniel Jones being there is he's a guy that's a veteran. He's been in the league, I don't know, about 6 years now. Um, he knows how to study. He's a professional, and all those things can just be a benefit to Anthony if he soaks all that in and doesn't look at it as a threat, but still goes out and does what he needs to do and show what he can do as far as being the better player. But I think having a veteran around him, just like I think a veteran would really help Cam in Tennessee, if he had somebody that he could learn from, that show him the ropes about what it takes to prepare for a game as an NFL quarterback, not a college quarterback. That would be very much to his benefit. So I think Daniel Jones could be a benefit to Anthony if he looks at it the right way mentally, uh, takes all the things that he can take from Daniel as far as how he prepares and how he gets ready to play, but then go out there and do the things that make you special. That's the reason why they drafted you, with the number 4 or 5 pick in the draft.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to watch, and the temperature in the room is going to be interesting too. Of course, with the recent passing of Jim Irsay, some were wondering, was Irsay going to put pressure on the general manager and head coach in Indianapolis this year? We won't know that answer. Rest in peace, Jim Irsay. But we'll see what comes of the Indianapolis Colts and the quarterback position in the coming season. Definitely want to say, rest in peace to Jim Irsay again as well.
No question about it. Jim was a very colorful owner, one of the youngest owners in the history of the league. Did a very good job early in his tenure there, bringing in, Peyton Manning and going and winning a Super Bowl. So he's definitely been a contributor to this league. He's one of the more colorful characters. A great lover of music and all of that. I say rest in peace, and all our prayers are with him and his family.
Right. Getting back to the AFC South and getting back to football within the division, there's a new beginning, and there's a new beginning going on in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. He's on his third head coach. Of course, plenty want to forget about the first head coach, but definitely he's on his third head coach there. That would be Liam Cohen. And he just got the big contract, the big extension that makes him one of the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. So with that being said, and all those things around him, how much pressure do you think is on him to perform this season?
Well, this is his third year coming up, so I think they're looking for big things out of Trevor. The problem is he's had 3 coaches in 3 years, and that doesn't always help a young quarterback. And I can't say I'm using it as an excuse, but it is a hurdle that he has to get over, because he's learning 3 different offenses from 3 different offensive coordinators, 3 different head voices from 3 different head coaches. So I'm sure he's still trying to navigate through that. He's had some injuries along the way, but I think they're looking for big things out of him. Now, it just depends on how Coach Cohen comes in and how drastic a change does he make to the offense. Can he make that offense to where it's similar to what Trevor's been already doing, so he doesn't have that steep a learning curve and he can have more success at the beginning of the season? I think that would really help him out. So we'll just have to wait and see. But Coach Cohen is very innovative. I think that's one of the reasons they brought him in. He's got a lot of great ideas, and I think he'll do a great job with Trevor. But Trevor's got to be open to that. But he also has to understand that, or we have to understand that, this is his third coaching staff in 3 years. So that's tough on a young quarterback coming into this league trying to find yourself.
Well, I will say that, as far as Trevor, one guy he can watch and look at is Baker Mayfield. And in his first year under Liam Cohen, he had career highs in touchdown passes at 40 with 41, career high in yards 4,500, and also a career high in QBR and 106.8, I believe is what it was. With that being said, you would think the attention to detail, the antennas are up for Trevor Lawrence to kind of maybe watch a few tapes of Baker Mayfield, watch a few tapes of that Tampa Bay offense and what particular things that they were able to do well. I know that, of course, you got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin there, but you do have two talented receivers as well, and Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, the rookie out of Colorado. So, if I'm Trevor, I'm excited when I look at that tape potentially and look at what potentially I can do within his type of offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's always great to have talent around you, and that's something I talked about earlier, that it's a very dependent position on other guys to do their jobs. But, Travis Hunter is going to be a rookie coming in there, so he's going to have a lot to learn. He's trying to learn both sides of the football. Brian Thomas had a tremendous year last year. I think 10 touchdown catches, and he's got a tremendous future in front of him. The thing is that with Coach Cohen, when he comes in there, of course, Baker Mayfield had some success with him, but Baker Mayfield might like to do things totally differently than Trevor Lawrence does. So what Coach Cohen has to try and find out is what Trevor likes to do and implement those things into the offense. I think the best job an offensive coordinator can do for any quarterback is to find out what he likes to do and then implement those things so he feels comfortable and can have success doing those things.
Gotcha. And you mentioned it, Brian Thomas Jr., you got wide receiver, defensive back Travis Hunter there. You bring in De'Ami Brown from the Commanders. You've got Red Strange at tight end. I mean, you've got a nice complement of weapons for Trevor Lawrence. And honestly, just looking at, the up and down career so far of Trevor Lawrence, they're going to need him to kind of like steady things out as opposed to being just like this. Because if he's up and down like a roller coaster, like he's been, for his first 4 or 5 years in the year, 4 or 5 years in the league, he's going to it's going to not play out so well for them, in my opinion, if that's the case.
No, I think any quarterback, you want your quarterback to be very solid in his play and not up and down from week to week. Of course, you're not going to have every game be good, but you want to make sure the games that you don't have that aren't very good be very few. But I think Trevor's played enough games in this league to know what it takes. I think he's been around long enough to say, okay, this is what I like about the league. This is what I don't like about the league. This is what I like about offense. This is what I don't like about offense. So I think he's at a stage where now he knows who he is, and it's just a matter of now taking that and taking it out on the field and making it happen. And he's got the weapons around him to do it. I think he has Travis Etienne as a back in the backfield that not only can run the ball, but he's also a receiving threat. So he's got talent all around him. It's just a matter of now him putting it all together, and once he feels comfortable, and then his leadership skills can come out and take over, and he can start playing the way everybody felt he could play when he was the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, definitely is going to be interesting and something to watch as the season goes on. Another quarterback that's going to be able to be on the watch a lot this season is CJ Stroud. He's going into year 3, and year 1 he definitely was a guy that exploded on the scene and just did his thing while protecting the football for the Houston Texans. Second season wasn't quite as great, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He doubled up on his interceptions. His QBR rating went down about 20 points. And he had 3 less touchdown passes. Of course, some of that can be said to be on the offensive line because he was kind of running for his life a lot. But to you, I mean, how much of that is a young quarterback still growing and learning? How much is that teams are adjusting to him after seeing him for a year? Or how much of that is just the offensive line? I know it's a combination of those, but how much of it is of each, in your opinion?
Yeah, it definitely is a combination of all 3 of those things you talked about. for one, his offensive line wasn't that good this year. He was sacked probably double the amount of times that he was sacked the year before. Like you said, his interceptions were up a little bit, almost double on those. And I think a lot of that has to do with, forcing the football or trying to get rid of it quickly because of pressure. Again, he had a new offensive coordinator as well. So all those things play into that. A couple of his receivers went down early during the season. I think he lost Collins for a while. He lost the other
Tank
kid, the
Dell,
slot receiver,
and then
Bell
Diggs.
for the year. So, and then Diggs went down. So all those things, play against a quarterback when you're dependent on other people. As I keep talking about that word, quarterback dependency, but it's really true. So I think CJ will bounce back this year. I think he'll have his receivers healthy this year. I think he's smart enough to understand and study all the tape throughout the offseason of what he did well, what he didn't do well, and he'll work on those things. And I think the team will do a much better job of surrounding him with better talent, especially on the offensive line. I think they went after some really good players in free agency, and I think they've beefed up that line now to make it a little bit stronger for him, so he can feel comfortable in that pocket and be able to throw the ball the way he's capable of.
Yeah, they definitely surprised a lot of people getting rid of Laramie Tunsil, but it is what it is. And they brought in Cam Robinson, who was a former Jacksonville Jaguar and Minnesota
Yep.
Viking, and they brought in Laken Tomlinson, a veteran up front as well. So it's just going to be interesting just to see how that line meshes. What another thing is going to be interesting to watch is the wide receiver room. Tank Dell is more than likely going to be out for this year. Diggs, like you mentioned, got hurt, and now he is in New England. They brought in Christian Kirk from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they have a rookie in Jaden Higgins. So, even though he has some talented guys, John Mechie you want to throw in there as well. Jalen Noel, another rookie from Iowa State. Even though he has talent around him, what can you say just for the chemistry? Because I know the chemistry was there for him and Tank Dell. I know the chemistry will still be there for him and Nico Collins. What can you say about just a quarterback and having chemistry with his wide receivers and just knowing where they're going to be at all times and how that affects his play?
Well, the job he did as a rookie coming in and the chemistry he established with Dell and also Collins in his first year, it just shows that that chemistry came together pretty quickly with those guys. But it also showed they probably worked together a lot in the summer getting ready for training camp, and I think that has a lot to do with it with a quarterback. I know I used to like to work with my guys as early as I possibly could in the off season. Working on just little things, looking at their body language, see how they came out of cuts and trying to anticipate when you think they're going to come out of cuts. All those different things are so important for a quarterback receiver combination. So the more time they could spend together, not only on the field, but also off the field, just talking about things, I think it helps that chemistry. So hopefully CJ is doing that with these young guys that he's had this offseason. And, once they get in there, they're able to work like even right now. Hopefully they're working together, not only in OTAs, but when practice is over, and then they're going to have a break here coming up pretty soon, and they'll continue to keep working. And that's where that chemistry continues to keep building, depending on how much time you put in and how many reps you guys get together. So when the season starts, you hit it on the run.
Definitely. And, just another thing you want to ask, is there anything in particular that you would look for potentially from CJ Stroud that may, kind of change? I know in your career, I know you try to grow each and every year and pay attention and be even better the next year. Is there anything in particular that you may be kind of looking for from CJ Stroud going into this season that perhaps, needs to still grow from him?
One of the things I told him that I thought he needed to do is maybe build his body up a little bit stronger, just so he's able to take the physical punishment that he took last year. I always felt like if my body was strong and I felt really good about my overall strength, it was going to make me not only physically stronger to take more of a physical pounding, but it also made me mentally stronger because I just felt like I was able to do it. So I felt like that's one of the things he needed to work on this offseason is work on his strength, because his body, he's a more a long, lanky type of body for a quarterback, and if he could put a little bit more, maybe 10 more pounds of muscle on his body, I think it would really help him as far as being tougher in the pocket, a little bit stronger in the pocket, and being able to take some of the hits that he's going to take. Because defenses, that's one thing defensive coordinators know how to do. When they see a good player, they're going to figure out how they can try and defeat him. And I think a lot of people knew that CJ liked to stay in the pocket, and they wanted to make sure they squeezed that pocket and made sure he was uncomfortable in that pocket. So I think being stronger, being physically stronger is going to help him be mentally stronger. And then I think he can really surprise people with his mobility. I think he's a little bit more mobile than what most people think. And maybe they'll do some more things offensively to get him on the move a little bit outside the pocket, so he's not always in one place where the defense knows that they can just zero in on him in the pocket.
Right. We have another comment from the tour in the AFC South inbox. We have D coming through. Of course, she's giving the salute. I think that's towards you, Warren.
Thank you, D. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the love that's out there. People, I'm still surprised people even know that I played the game. I've been gone for a little while, but I guess with Google and all the other things that are out there, it kind of keeps you alive a little bit. YouTube, with the highlights and all those things going on with the Madden legendary games. All those things kind of keep you in the forefront, that people know that you did play the game once upon a time.
I hear you there. And of course, we also have someone coming through with a comment. I guess his name's Pistol Grip. He said, tighten up. All right. Let's see. The last thing I want to talk about with you is the quarterback position overall, because I know, every time we talk, you definitely have some thoughts about the quarterback position, and I kind of wanted to explore those just a little bit. Right now, of course, the quarterback position is, of course, it's one of the most, it's most financially, they basically put a lot of finances into that position, especially when they hit their second contract. So teams try to kind of make it to the Super Bowl with quarterbacks that are within their rookie contract. Now, a lot of them don't succeed in doing so. So to me, I'm like, when do you think that, quarterbacks teams are going to understand that, it doesn't really happen all the time that quarterbacks make it within their rookie contract. And, when are they going to actually understand that it takes developing a quarterback and nurturing a quarterback, no matter what the contract looks like, as opposed to trying to rush to that in a rookie contract, for a quarterback.
Well, I think if every team had its way, it would want to get a quarterback and make him be good enough to get them there on a rookie contract, because you're talking about paying guys $50 million or more now to play quarterback, and that's a lot of money. It takes a lot of money away from your salary cap. Probably somewhere around 20-25% of your salary cap on one player. So if you can get a guy that's young like a CJ Stroud, or young like a Jaden Daniels, or young like a Russell Wilson when he took the Seahawks to 2 Super Bowls, or somebody else that's young like Purdy there in San Francisco. They've gone to 2 Super Bowls already, all on their rookie contracts. That's what you wish could happen. Does it always happen? No, it doesn't. But if it does, it's a tremendous value to a team, because now you can stack a lot of more talent around him to make the job a little bit easier for him. And if he has the skills that it takes and can manage the game the way he needs to, I'm sure every team would like to do it that way. But like you said, that doesn't happen very often, but it's happened enough times to where NFL teams think, if we could get somebody who could do that, we could build a much better football team around him. And I think that's what everybody's looking for, but it's not always that easy to find.
Well, you did have some more comments, Warren, and they heard you talk just a minute ago about the video games and all those different things. Corey had some words for you, man. Legends are never forgotten, Mr. Mo. Legends are never forgotten.
I appreciate that. I really do.
And then, of course, our guy Pistol Grip came back. Glad to hear Warren, my granny RP, loved Moon. She used to record all his games on VHS.
Well, Granny, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I mean, I love the fact that that people love the way I play the game, because I play the game because I loved it, but I also knew that people wanted to be entertained by me as well, that I was an entertainer. So I love that people like the way I played the game. I tried to play it as hard as I could each and every week, whether we won or lost, and I pretty much gave everything I had every week. So um, it's nice to know that people really appreciate that, and I appreciate them appreciating me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Corey said it right. Legends are never forgotten. That is for sure, for sure. One thing I want to ask as well, and I know we've talked about this in terms of development of quarterbacks. We talked about this with Anthony Richardson last season, in terms of development of quarterbacks. But I want to ask you, what do you think is the biggest thing, the biggest part of development teams are missing with QBs these days?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it has to do with offensive coordinators making sure that whatever they implement in their offense, that quarterback has the ability to make that happen. I think uh, coordinators have to look at what made a quarterback successful in college. What were the things he was doing in college, and try and incorporate those things into the offense as early as they can, along with their other ideas. But at least you have a package of plays that a guy is going to feel very comfortable with, that he can go out and have success with, and then you just build off of that. Where you see a lot of coaches that say, bring in a quarterback and say, this is my system, you're going to learn my system, and if he doesn't learn that system very well, or if it takes him a little bit of time to learn it, then you're not doing what's best for that quarterback to have success. So I think that's something that these coaches can do a much better job of, is implementing the things that they had success with in their college career into the offense when they first come in, so they have a little bit more comfort in the things that they're learning offensively, and then they can build off of that as the season goes along.
Right, right. So, one last question I do have. We also talked about sitting QBs, and I know your thoughts there on sitting QBs. Do you ever see that, potentially coming back of, sitting QBs for at least a year? And, is there a set time, in your opinion, that teams should set a QB before putting him on the field?
I would love to see every QB that comes out of college play. I mean, sit at least half the season, if not a whole season. And you look at some of the guys who have done that, and then you look at some of the guys who have had to play right away. Look at like a Troy Aikman. He came out and played right away, and they were 1-15, and he led the league in interceptions. Or you look at Peyton Manning, when he came out, same thing. They were 3-13, and he led the league in interceptions. So then you look at Patrick Mahomes, and then he comes out and doesn't play until the last game of his first year, and then he just takes off the second year. So a lot of it has to do with what your infrastructure is that's around you, and I think that's what's going to make that quarterback have success or not. If he's surrounded with good talent, and if you're incorporating an offense that he feels comfortable with, you have a better chance of that young guy having success, as opposed to trying to make him do something that he's not comfortable doing, and you don't have a really good football team around him. You're probably not going to have that much success. So if a guy can sit and learn and watch for a while, I think it's really to his benefit. But there's so much pressure on organizations to put, a young star quarterback coming out of college on the field as quickly as possible, especially if you don't have a guy there already. So uh, I feel bad for the young guys who have to be put out there more before they're ready, but that's what happens sometimes, because teams feel that pressure from their fans. They feel that pressure from the media, that we've got to take this guy who's a star like a Cam Ward, and we got to put him out there as quickly as we can, because everybody wants to see him play.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting just to see how that balance happens, especially with these quarterbacks that are coming into the league right now, and how it goes to the future. Warren, I want to thank you for coming on and giving us your expertise and your knowledge about the quarterback position, the position that you played so very, very well enough to be a Hall of Famer. And I want to just give you your flowers for all the wonderful things that you did and the wonderful memories that you created on the football field every time you stepped on there. And like you said, you gave us your all every time you stepped on the field, and that cannot be forgotten. I want to say thank you, Mr. Moon, and thank you for coming on this show. Did you want to tell anyone where they can find you on social media or any things you may be working on?
On my Twitter, I'm at WMoon1, at Instagram, Warren Moon 1. And, I'm doing lots of different things. We just had our golf tournament for our foundation, Brothers in Arms, our fifth annual golf tournament. And that tournament pretty much funds our scholarship program for the year. We named our 5 scholarship winners this year at the tournament. So really excited about that. They're all going off to college here now in the next couple of months. We had our first graduating class from college this past year. So things are really on the move as far as what we're doing with Brothers in Arms. I'm really proud of the progress we've made in such a short period of time.
And if for those that aren't aware, can you tell the people who are, who's involved with Brothers in Arms as well?
Yeah, Brothers in Arms was started by myself, Andre Ware, and Vince Young, and we all came from single mom homes. We all were involved in sports in and around Houston, whether they were born and raised in Houston and played their high school football there. Andre played at the University of Houston. Of course, Vince played at the University of Texas. I played at the Houston Oilers. I met all those guys when they were coming out of high school and college. So we formed this foundation because we all kind of come from the same environment, coming from single mom homes. We were involved in sports. We were very involved in our communities. So we put together a foundation that trying to look at kids that come from the same environment we did and try and give them opportunities to go to college and be what they want to be. They don't have to play sports in college, but they definitely had to play sports in high school in order to qualify for the scholarship. And they also had to have really good grades and be involved in their community. So those are the kids we target. And it's really a hard selection process because we find so many kids that come from these type of backgrounds, and they all have great stories. But the ones we've picked so far have done very, very well for us. And it's like one big family. They all know each other. They all, text each other throughout the year at school, and because they all have, similar backgrounds as well. So they all can relate to each other. And it's been a good relationship so far. And we're excited about what the future has to hold.
Awesome. And can you give that website one more time?
It is brothersinarmshouston.com.
brothersinarmshouston.com. All right. Thank you again, Warren. Of course, I'm the host of the show, Mike Patton. Again, thank you, Warren, for your excellent commentary and expertise. Of course, you can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82. You can also find me on Blue Sky, same name. You can also find me on Instagram and Threads at that's THA, not THE _general_MP. And touring the AFC South, you can find on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. We are also on the YouTube universe as well at the Mike Patton Network. Got a few other comments for you, Warren. Said great show from Corey, and also talked about the foundation. Said great players and even greater men. Thank you for pouring back into the community.
I appreciate all of that. That's what leadership is all about. It's not just about playing the game on the field, but it's also appreciating what you have and being able to give back to others that don't have as much as you do. And that's what we all try and do. And I think that's what everybody should strive to do. Whatever they have to give back, try and do that.
Right. And again, thank you, Warren, for coming on. This has been episode 338 of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.